Is it truly possible to love everyone? Is it truly possible to like everyone even? We are commanded by the Torah to love your fellow Jew as yourself. However, how is it possible to love people when they do things that are not necessarily correct, when they rub us the wrong way, when they disappoint us, when they anger us, when they do things to hurt us, and we're still obligated to love everyone as ourselves and treat them kindly? How is that possible? How is it possible to see the good in people, even your family members who irritate you and frustrate you? I've learned in my coaching something very interesting, and I can apply it to myself. Years ago, one of my children had this character trait of being very, very sensitive, incredibly sensitive. And I got annoyed. I'm like, okay, just let it go. I just gave a quick solution, and I wasn't in the mood. It was the end of the day. It was after my work. I wasn't as patient, and this is definitely relatable. And I was just like giving the solution, rubbing it off, not really paying so much attention. And I was honestly annoyed. And this child taught me, because of um, my child's ability to be very sensitive. Maybe it was something so minuscule, so unimportant, such as someone taking something away or something not being fair. And I didn't take the time to acknowledge my child's feelings as much as I should have. And I've learned that this child taught me to be more sensitive. And I have learned to become such a sensitive person, much more than before. And I've learned in my coaching that when people rub us the wrong way, when we get annoyed, most likely it's because they are teaching us something about ourselves that we need to acknowledge and we need to change. We learn from in Parshat Vayishlach, Yaakov is telling Esav, his twin brother, that in all his years in living with Lavan, he did not learn from his evil ways. Now, how is it possible not to learn from someone who has evil ways? It is possible. We learn that our forefathers, their abilities is in our DNA. Everything they've accomplished, all their character traits are in us. All we need to do is tap into it, and it's easily accessible. But it is possible. It is possible to be able to live life the right way despite our reality, despite our backdrop, despite our current circumstances. So Yaakov taught us something incredibly powerful. Not only can we live the right way despite our circumstances, we can learn to be good. We can learn to do the right thing despite our circumstances. And it said Yaakov learned that Yaakov followed and kept all the 613 mitzvot, the commandments in the Torah. Now, how is it possible? Because some of the mitzvot that you do as a Jewish person, you need to do in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel. And that couldn't have been possible with Yaakov. So it means that when Yaakov learned about the mitzvot, it's considered as though he followed that. And that's towards us as well. When we learn about the mitzvot we're supposed to keep, even if we're not a Kohen, because some mitzvot are only for Kohens, and if we don't yet live in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, then if we learn about the mitzvot, it's considered as though we have followed them, and we as though we have did them as well. Now, we want to do the best we can in this world. We want to follow all of the commandments. Now, is it possible for a person who is heavily invested in, let's say, woman A is heavily invested in taking care of sick people, in visiting nursing homes and old people heavily invested in knowing who's sick and sending them food and making sure they're taken care of, and their siblings who visit them, and there's family who's taking care of them and is notified, heavily invested. Now this is a true kindness. Maybe she's getting paid for it, maybe she isn't, but the point being is that it's a very heavily invested time, heavily invested energy, efforts. Maybe she's getting paid for it, but it's a lot. Now, she can't possibly at the same time invest herself in, let's say, matchmaking, making shidduchim, making sure that everybody she knows and contacts, she has a list of anybody who's available, and maybe, she's successful here and there in matchmaking a few people, maybe making sure that they're married, she's successful that. It's a big mitzvah. It's a tremendous mitzvah. But it is impossible for a person to invest themselves heavily in every single mitzvah, 630 mitzvot. It's impossible. However, it is possible in one way. And this way is so incredibly powerful, and it's so incredibly essential for us to know in which way we can access these spiritual nutrients that are available to us. And the answer is they're available from us to each other. In other words, if she's good at making shidduchim, she's good at visiting the sick and making sure they're taken care of, and this person has this much to offer, and this one is very encouraging, and this one is a great advisor, and this one is a great teacher. All of us are so incredibly unique. There's no one ever like you. There never was, and there never will be. So you have so much to offer in this world, and nobody ever can do your job. So the spiritual nutrients that we all create in this world are available to all of us under one condition. And that's only if a person is willing and able to accept that person, to see the good in the person, to see the person with rosy colored glasses, to see the positive, even if you don't know them, even if you don't necessarily like them or love them. How is it possible that we love people we don't know? But it is possible, because if we know that we make the world go round. We as a people are one. So what I have to offer, you can't offer. What you have to offer, I can't offer. So we are all one. We're benefiting from one another. And if I see the good in you, then the spiritual nutrients that you create with your mitzvot, it's benefiting me as well. And I have learned this concept this week, and I've applied it. Preparing for this lecture, for this video. Before the lecture, I prayed and I said, listen, Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever mitzvot I've generated, I'm meriting to generate through preparing this class, through giving it over, whoever benefits from it, may it benefit all of Klal Yisrael. So not only are we benefiting each other, we're also benefiting all of Klal Yisrael, all the Jewish people. So why is this so incredibly important? In the generation that we live in the time that we live in, it's especially essential for us to know. It's so easy to see the negative in other people. The information is available within a second, a click of a button, a short video. We judge people, unfortunately, all the time. And this is only hurting us. If we are so busy ripping apart people, criticizing them, judging them, we cannot benefit from what they have to offer in this world. Hashem does not make those spiritual nutrients available to us. So we have to understand that if we cut off our ability to see this, we don't benefit from this offer. And this is very, very sad. So if you know about this, your incredible opportunity and ability and chance, take it, grab and go. So it's very, very important for us to see the good in one another. Rebbetzin Esther Bella Schwartz had a motto, and the motto went like this. She said, if you don't like my child, then I don't like you. She had a number of children in their teenage years who gave her a very difficult time growing up. And she had constant phone calls from people saying what her children did wrong, and constant phone calls, constant reminders. And she didn't really appreciate hearing about it. We don't appreciate, those of us who are blessed to be parents, those of us who are not yet blessed to be parents, may you be blessed with this amazing blessing. I've said blessing so many times. Amazing blessing, God willing. But a lot of people have called her when her kids were teenagers. Now they're all grown up and they're all fine and good. Thank God. So she didn't appreciate hearing about it. Anyway, if you have something to say negative about a child who's constantly misbehaving, if it's your neighbor's child, if it's someone in the family, if you're a teacher, it's not helpful. If the parent already knows about their child, it's not helpful. And I learned it in my own practice as a teacher. I had in my special one of my special needs students, an autistic child, gave, there's different types of special needs children. So this special needs child was exceptionally aggressive, and the mother was older and couldn't keep up with the child, and she was just done. She was just physically drained. And in the beginning of my school year, at one point, he during gym class he threw out some gym items out the window. It was in the top floor, so the windows were open, and he threw them out, and he was disqualified from playing. And I figured, this is an important thing to tell the mother. So I told the mother, and my assistant told the mother, and she just started crying. She was just done. For 20 minutes, I was trying to console her outside the school, and it really triggered something. Of course, she was just mentally drained, physically drained with him hearing all of this. So we made a new motto in the classroom: unless the child, God forbid, is terribly hurt, she already knows how he is. It's not worth it to give this information over to a parent if they already know how their child is. So each child is, of course, different. Each parent is different. But then again, we have to know, we don't no parent wants to hear negative about their children. Hashem is our Father. Hashem is our God. Does He want to hear negative things about each other? About us judging each other? Who are we to judge anybody? We are, every single individual is so unique, is so special. We can't see the negative in one another. It's not good to do so. It's not helping any one of us. And even if we're right and the other person is for sure wrong, what are we doing to ourselves? We're living in anger. We're living in resentment. We're living hating the person inside. The Chafetz Chaim taught that, this incredible sage, that if you don't say anything bad about the person, but you have it in your heart, that's even worse. You're keeping a grudge. So we don't want to do that. It's not helping us. It's not helping us live quality lives by talking badly about one another, by thinking badly about one another, even people we don't even know. Let me give you a beautiful example that I learned from Rebbetzin Schwartz. Very beautiful example. Let's say there's a mother with a number of children, and she decides to go shopping. And on the way to shop, she has to make sure, follow up with her husband, making sure that she doesn't have this and she has that in the house because she forgot a few items on the list. She wants to make sure that's needed, and she rewrites it on the list, and she makes sure to go shopping. She comes home. I mean, she puts everything in the shopping cart, puts it all in the car, drives home, brings it upstairs to her where she lives. And now she has to make dinner very, very quickly because soon the kids have to eat. And of course, then she hears the complaints. This is like the worst food in the world, or the neighbor makes it better, or the aunt makes it better, whoever it is. And this is not what they wanted for dinner, and they thought this was for dinner. And she hears all these complaints. And then, of course, there's cleanup time, there's shower time, there's homework time, all of that. And of course, she promised someone in the neighborhood that she's cooking for them because they had a baby. So she's of course she's going to do that, and she's cooking for that family. And she also promised this group that she's part of that she's going to pray for this person that's sick. And so she's part of that. And she promised her friend that every week she's learning for 10 minutes a night about the laws of Lashon Hara, about some Torah uh, or a Torah book. And she's promising all this and she's doing all this. Now, how much mitzvahs has she done? This is on a typical day, probably, for this woman. And you know what? She forgot to put her shopping cart back, in the outside parking lot. As she just left it. And this other person just comes like, what kind of person is she? First of all, you don't even know her. And we judge this person. We're like, how could she do this? And maybe we don't even know if it was her. We're just like seeing the shopping cart. And we criticize these people. Like, people are so insensitive. What can we say? This person had a hard day. Or this person didn't think because her mind was already on the dinner that she's going to cook. So what happens is, if we don't see the good in people, people we don't know, people we never met, people we know, guess what happens? We don't benefit from all their spiritual nutrients that they get to offer with all their mitzvot. How much spiritual nutrients was she able to produce that night? So much, so many. But yet we see the negative in the person. You know what? We lose out on the opportunity to benefit from what they have to offer, unfortunately. So we don't want to do that. We have an X amount of brain cells available to us. We have certain amount of time that we can just focus on a few things really well. And if I speak to women all the time, and I know this within myself. I've learned to overcome this, that we try to do so much. We put so much on our plate, and we may get upset at ourselves, that we didn't get a chance to do this and this and that, and we're trying to manage to do this and this and that. I would suggest create a pizza pie, a mental pizza pie of what you can handle. And if you put something else new, like another 10-minute learning session, take something else out. If you're trying to do everything, which you're not really supposed to do because Hashem does everything, and don't beat yourself up about it. If you're trying to do it well, do it with common sense. Don't beat yourself about it, and know that you can only focus on so much. But if we're busy focusing on criticizing this one and judging that one, there's no space in our brains to judge people favorably, to look for the good in other people. So I'm going to give you a practical tip, and the practical tip is the following. Whenever you do any kind of mitzvah, and you could set this tone for the rest of your day, you could say it in the morning, you could say it 3 times a day, you could say when you do something exceptionally difficult, you can say, may the merits of this mitzvah that it generates, may it benefit all of Klal Yisrael. If I merit to bring Kedusha into this world, may it benefit all of Klal Yisrael. This is a beautiful thing we could take upon ourselves. These are recommendations from Rebbetzin Esther Baylor Schwartz. And if we take these practices and we internalize them, make it part of us, part of how we behave, how we look at other people, we are going to be happier, calmer, serene, and live life with rosy colored glasses. So it is possible to look at others favorably, to love them even if you don't know them, to forgive them even if you're right, and may we all benefit from each other's spiritual nutrients. Appreciating the insights of Rebbetzin Esther Baylor Schwartz, Leah Abramov, Being and Becoming, awakening awareness of your greatness and potential.